Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Wednesday, December the 14th. Big Wednesday slate, 10-gamer tonight, guys. So as always, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each one of these 10 games. Going to give you guys my quick early thoughts on the slate. Since it is kind of a bigger slate, I'm going to try and go quick through these games. Some games will just fly through, some we'll spend a little bit more time on. But before we do get started with the breakdown, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos and if they do help you out, please hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel and you have not checked out the sponsor of this video, check out PrizePicks. They are the sponsor. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code. You look at the bottom of the screen, sign up with promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100, or you just click the link in the description. That'll take you, straight to the site. But as you can see, PrizePicks is a player prop site, so it's very simple and easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. You can see the full board once it gets posted. Obviously, making this video on Tuesday night, so there's really not a ton of projections up right now. But check the board again sometime on Wednesday afternoon. You'll see props for pretty much every single game for just about every player, at least every starter. You can take a look at points, rebounds, assists, points, rebounds, assists added together, 3-pointers made, blocks and steals. Like, they have everything. Every prop that any other sports book has, PrizePicks offers. Plus, PrizePicks does offer fantasy score projections. So, like, if you have access to fantasy point projections, or if you make your own fantasy point projections, you can compare your projections to PrizePicks projections and kind of make some decisions that way as well. So definitely get over to PrizePicks, guys. Check them out. Sign up with my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk through Wednesday's 10-game slate. Going to try and go quick through these 10 games, guys. Start off with the first game of the night, Detroit and Charlotte. So, this is one that I think there's some appealing, guys you could target in GPPs here. I don't know if there's going to be, any core or optimal plays coming from this game, but Detroit's been a really bad defensive team this year. Charlotte hasn't been as bad defensively, but this is still a matchup I think you can attack. Starting off on the Charlotte side, I think Terry Rozier in tournaments, I'm fine going to here. I think his ownership should be fairly low on a big slate like this, and this is definitely a matchup Rozier can have success in. Detroit, again, they've been one of the worst defensive teams in the league this year. I know they've given up a lot of fantasy points and a lot of points in general to the point guard position. This has been a matchup to target is point guards versus the Pistons. So I think the matchup's pretty good for Terry Rozier. I think he's definitely appealing. I think he is viable today. Kelly Oubre at 7,400, I'm not as interested in. Mason Plumlee at 6,100 feels priced about right. The rest of Charlotte, I'm not super high on. I don't see a ton else I like on this team. I think really it's probably just Rozier that I'm considering, and that's it. And then on the other side with Detroit, so do want to talk about some potential value here, but we'll start off with Killian Hayes at 6,600. Doesn't feel like a guy I'm going to go to at that salary. Bojan Bogdanovic been playing really well this season, but he feels priced about right. Between him or Hayes, I think I guess I'd go with Bogdanovic, but don't love either one at those salaries. Jaden Ivey, I think, came off the bench last game, if I remember correctly. His production's not been great lately. His minutes have also been down, so he's kind of a tough guy to trust right now. But I do want to talk about Jalen Duren. So I think we did see Jalen Duren start pretty recently. I think their last game against Memphis he started, and I think he might have started that game as well against the Lakers. I can't remember, honestly. I think that was a Sunday game. I don't pay attention to the NBA a ton on Sundays, but I do want to check and see if Duren started that game as well. It looks like he did start. So if Jalen Duren starts here, he's a good point-per-minute player, and this is obviously a matchup we'd love to target. Charlotte, been one of the worst defensive teams against centers, so really like Jalen Duren for value today, assuming he continues to start, which I assume he will be. The Pistons, they're in kind of they're in evaluation mode right now. They already ruled out Cade Cunningham for the rest of the season. They have no need to play like these old veterans. They need to develop these young guys. So I assume right now they're trying to see what they have in Jalen Duren. He should continue to start. I assume he's cheap, good per minute producer, great matchup. He's my favorite play overall in this game, and I think the two guys that look the most appealing in this game are Terry Rozier and then Duren if he starts again. But that's it for this one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Atlanta and Orlando. So for Atlanta today, big news to keep an eye on here is Trae Young's status. He's currently listed as questionable. Young sat out their last game. It was a back-to-back. He didn't play. We saw them go with the starting lineup, I believe, if I remember correctly, was A.J. Griffin, DeAndre Hunter. Okongwu started because Clint Capella was out last game. They started Jalen Johnson, and they started Trent Forrest at point guard. Obviously, if Trae's out again, they're going to have Capella back, so Capella would start in place of Okongwu. I assume they would continue to bring Bogdanovic off the bench. He was out last game. I doubt he would start, so they probably would run the same starting lineup as last game, except for Capella replacing Okongwu. So there would be some value to target here if Trey gets ruled out, but I think for now we just kind of have to assume that Trey's going to play. If Trey plays, I love the spot for him against Orlando. Orlando's a bad defensive team. Without DeJounte Murray, Trae Young is going to continue to have a massive usage rate, and this is a matchup that he should be able to excel in. Orlando's been giving up a lot of fancy points to point guards this year. They're just not a good defensive team in general. Trey put up 55 DK points against them last time they played, and that was with DeJounte playing. Without DeJounte, Trey has massive upside here, so really like Trae Young if he plays today. Clint Capella at 6,700, not super interested in. Do want to talk about Bogdan Bogdanovic. I think he's a really good value at 5K. We've seen Bogdan be really productive these last few games without DeJounte. His minutes have also been really good. They said they were going to keep him on a minutes limit, but obviously that hasn't really been he's not been limited lately. Last 2 games, he's played 34 and 36 minutes off the bench. So, Bogdan's kind of their number 2 option on offense right now without DeJounte. So I think at 5K, he looks like a really good value today. Him and Trey, I'm very interested in both of those guys. The rest of the Atlanta guys like AJ Griffin, I know he had a good game last game, but I think a lot of that kind of had to do with Trey being out. He took a lot of shots. Not super interested in him if Trey's back. Same goes for the rest of these guys like DeAndre Hunter. Really, it's just Bogdan and Trey that I'm interested in here. By some chance, if Trey does get ruled out again, then yeah, we can start to look to guys like AJ Griffin, DeAndre Hunter. I don't think any of these guys will be amazing values, but Jalen Johnson, I know was productive last game. He could be in consideration for value if Trey sits. Bogdan would look like an even better play if Trey got ruled out, and then Trent Forrest, he could be worth considering if Trey were to sit. But that's really it for Atlanta. Expecting Trey to play today. He looks like a great option. Bogdanovic looks like a great option, and that's kind of my main interest from the Hawks. Now on the Orlando side, don't really like much on Orlando. They've kind of been a team I've been just avoiding lately. They've been getting blown out a lot, and I think this is a spot at home against a kind of a depleted Hawks team. This is a spot Orlando should be able to keep the game close. So if you want to go to Paolo Banchero, I don't hate it. I think at 7,700 he has the upside to pay off that price tag, but he's probably the only guy I'm considering on the Magic. This Magic team, they're going to run a pretty deep rotation. They're going to play a lot of guys. They're going to spread out the minutes for the most part. Just not a team I want to be going too heavy on. I think the one guy you can maybe go to besides Banchero would be Markelle Fultz. Now, Fultz's production lately has not been great, but he's been starting and he's been getting decent minutes in competitive games. Some of these games lately have been blowouts. He also got in foul trouble last game, but I think if this game's close, we can assume Fultz is playing 30, 32 minutes. So on a 10-game slate, he's not this amazing value play, but I think he is playable, and his ownership I'd assume would be low. But let's move on to the next game. Let's talk about Golden State and Indiana. So this is a back-to-back for Golden State. They did get blown out on Tuesday night against the Bucks. We've seen Golden State rest a lot of their guys on back-to-backs lately, but I assume given the blowout on Tuesday night and given a lot of these guys didn't play their full minutes, we kind of have to expect everyone from Golden State to be in besides Klay Thompson. I think it's most likely Klay Thompson's going to be out here. I don't think he's played on a back-to-back yet this season, and although his minutes were kind of limited on Tuesday, pretty likely he sits here, and if Klay does wind up sitting, Jordan Poole's already been starting in place of Andrew Wiggins, but DraftKings actually bumped up Jordan Poole's price a lot here. He's 7,800. So even if Klay's out, I'm not running to roster Jordan Poole. Steph's price came up a little bit. I think at 11K, even if Klay's out, I'm not in love with Steph on a big slate like this. There's other guys I'd rather pay up for. If Klay plays, I don't really love much on Golden State. Draymond feels priced about right. Just not much really stands out here, even in kind of a good matchup. I know the Pacers have been playing at a really fast pace, and this should be a pretty fast-paced, high-scoring game in general. But Golden State's their guys got priced up a little bit. I'm guessing DraftKings kind of assumed that Thompson would be out today. So good job by them to make the price tags right. Now on the Indiana side, Tyrese Halliburton, I think as a tournament option is always viable. Again, this should be a really fast-paced, high-scoring game, and these are the type of games that Halliburton usually thrives in. He's coming off a really bad game against Miami last time in his last matchup. I would expect Halliburton to bounce back here. Doesn't stand out as a priority play today, but I'm totally fine getting to Halliburton in GPP lineups if you play multiple lineups. Miles Turner at 7K. Don't hate going to here. We've seen the Warriors not be as strong defensively this year, especially on the road. They've been really bad defensively on the road this season for whatever it's worth. So I think the spot for Turner is okay. I think the 7K price tag feels about right, but he definitely has some upside here. I don't hate going to Miles Turner. Probably not really considering anyone else on Indiana though. Mainly just Halliburton and Turner as GPP options, and that's probably it. We'll definitely have to pay attention to Golden State's injury report though, since it is a back-to-back. You never know what Steve Kerr might do. He might just decide to sit everyone for all we know. But let's move on to the next game, the Knicks and the Bulls. So look at the Knicks today. Big news to keep an eye on here is Jalen Brunson. His status, he's currently questionable. I don't think Jalen Brunson has missed a game yet this season, so if he were to get ruled out, most likely it would either be Derrick Rose or Emmanuel Quickly who starts in place of Brunson. Whichever one starts, I really like. 5,300 for Quickly would definitely be too cheap. Derrick Rose, he's not really been getting a ton of minutes this season, but we know Derrick Rose can produce when he gets minutes. He's only 3,700, a little bit of a revenge spot going on the road to face the Bulls. So between Quickly and Rose, I do like whichever one starts if Brunson were to get ruled out. Now, if Brunson plays, I don't love much on the Knicks today. I think Julius Randle at 8,700, just kind of like a tournament option. I think RJ Barrett, he's been playing more minutes lately. His production's been up as well. It's finally starting to look good. He's 7K though, so that price tag's gotten to a point where I don't think Barrett really stands out. But it's at least good to see him playing well lately. Brunson, if he plays at 6,800, I don't mind. But the Knicks are not a team I'm super interested in today. Mitchell Robinson is a guy that has upside when he gets minutes, and his minutes have been pretty solid lately. At 5,200, again, not a player that I feel like on a 10-game slate you're really going to have, but I could see Mitchell Robinson putting up 30, 35 DraftKings points, and that's fine at his salary, but that's not really a score that's going to like win you GPPs. I do question the upside a little bit for Robinson, but that's probably it for the Knicks. Honestly, just kind of a wait and see here with Brunson's status. If Brunson gets ruled out, then I definitely am going to be looking to either Quickly or Rose, whoever draws the start. But on the other side with the Bulls, this is not a team I really get excited to roster when they're fully healthy. I think DeMar DeRozan at 8,400 is someone you can always consider in tournaments. This price tag feels about right. He's coming off a huge game against Atlanta where he put up 63 DK points, played 45 minutes. I think that game might have went to overtime. We know, DeRozan has that kind of upside. He's not a player that I've really rostered much at all this season. On a 10-game slate, I assume his ownership would be fairly low. So, if you want to go to DeRozan and GPPs, I think it's fine. If I was going to play anyone in Chicago, it probably would be him. Levine and Vooch, I think at their price tags feel just kind of priced right. Don't love either one. The rest of Chicago, I'm not really considering. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, the Kings and the Raptors. So the Kings, they're another team on a back-to-back today. De'Aaron Fox was questionable for Tuesday's game, wound up playing. I assume he'll play today. Don't love the spot for Sacramento. On a back-to-back going up against a good Raptors team, I definitely think there's a little bit of blowout risk in this game. Tough matchup for Sabonis. He's not a guy that I'm super interested in today. Tough matchup for De'Aaron Fox. Not super interested in him. Honestly, the Kings as a whole, I think I'm just kind of full fading today. Don't love really anyone on this team. And then on the other side with Toronto, the big news here is that OG Anunoby is still out. So without OG Anunoby, I mean, we can kind of expect everyone to see a little bit of a bump. Siakam, VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent. At their price tags, I would say my favorite guy is probably VanVleet. I know VanVleet's production has been really bad lately, but he did have a good game last game without OG, and it's good to see him starting to play better. 44 DK points in 42 minutes. We know the Raptors are going to play their main guys, huge minutes. Siakam's been amazing this season, but I think the $10,500 salary doesn't make him a standout option to me. Scotty Barnes at 7,300. Been a tough guy to predict this season. He's had some good games, but he's also had some some floor games. He's had 2 back-to-back floor games. I think he's a fine option at 7,300, but don't love him. And then Gary Trent was the guy who started last game in place of OG. He actually played pretty well. 32 DraftKings points. He played 44 minutes. I assume Gary Trent, going to continue to start while OG's out. He's a tough guy to really feel confident in just because, outside of shooting, he doesn't really do anything else besides that. So he's got to make his shots to put up good games. He's going to have to score. If he doesn't knock down his shots, you can get really bad games from Gary Trent. But he's going to play huge minutes, it seems like. His price tag is not super high. I'm okay going to Gary Trent. But I don't love a ton in this game. This is one that I'm not that interested in. Don't see much I like here besides maybe VanVleet, maybe Trent, and honestly that's probably it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Miami and OKC. So for Miami today, big news here is that Jimmy Butler is out. I think everyone else though is probable. So big news though with Butler out, that just kind of opens up more usage for the main guys. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry. Bam Adebayo made him the thumbnail for today. Absolutely love the spot for Bam Adebayo going up against OKC. We've seen OKC just be so bad defensively against centers this season. They're a bad rebounding team. This is a spot where Bam Adebayo should be able to crush. I think it's a really good matchup here for Bam. And obviously Jimmy being out is even better. More usage heading Bam's way. So really like Bam today. I think Tyler Hero at 8,100. He's okay, but I would definitely rather go to Bam. And then Kyle Lowry at 6,500. I'm kind of interested in Lowry here. I think without Butler, he definitely should pick up a little bit more usage. Lowry, hasn't shown a massive ceiling this season, but he has had some good games when the Heat have been shorthanded. Without Butler today, you would expect Lowry to pick up some additional ball handling, some additional usage. 6,500. I think Lowry's okay, but definitely, my favorite play from Miami by far is Bam here. The rest of Miami, though, like the value guys, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, they're playable with Jimmy out, but I don't love either one, honestly. And then on the other side with OKC, not the best spot here for OKC. Tough Miami, tough or matchup going up against a good Miami defense. SGA is always someone you can consider for tournaments, but this is definitely not the most ideal spot, and he's not a guy that I'm super interested in today. Giddey and Dort don't love in this matchup. I did see that JRE got ruled out. I don't know if that really matters, honestly, just because OKC is a team that's going to run a super deep rotation. They're going to play a lot of guys. Also, even if you were to target the starting center, whether it's like Poku or, I don't know, maybe Bazley, even if you target whoever starts the center, it's just such a tough matchup. We've seen Miami do a really good job limiting centers this season. Bazley, I know he did get back into the rotation last game. He played 19 minutes. Maybe if they start Bazley, I doubt they would, but if by some chance Bazley starts at center or something, maybe we could go to Bazley, but I feel like OKC changes up their starting lineup every day. I want to say that JRE's been starting lately, but I'm honestly not 100% sure on that, just because it feels like they change up their starting lineup almost every day. I know they've been starting at Poku, they've been starting Poku at center some, so yeah, it's just, I'll just avoid OKC today. It's just not even worth the hassle to try and predict this team. I think definitely favorite play in this game by far is going to be Bam Adebayo. But let's move on to the next one. We still got 4 more games to hit, guys. So Portland and San Antonio. Looking at the Portland here, really good matchup for these Blazers, guys. Obviously, San Antonio been one of the most friendly matchups this season. San Antonio plays at a fast pace. They're a really bad defensive team. Damian Lillard has been going absolutely nuts lately. He's been playing out of his mind. Last few games, 72 DK points, 54 DK points. Last game, only put up 48 DK points, but he didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. He shot 11 for 17 from 3. He was on pace to break the three-point record, but unfortunately that game blew out, so Dame didn't get any fourth quarter run. But I think at 10-3, as a tournament option in a really good matchup, I'm fine going to Dame today. Not a guy you're considering in cash games, but for GPPs, he's viable. The rest of Portland, I think the only other guy that I'm interested in is Nurkic, just because this matchup is so favorable. We've seen centers just give up. We've seen centers have really good games against San Antonio. San Antonio's given up a lot of fancy points to the center position. I know they give up a lot of points in the paint as well. So I think Nurkic as a GPP option makes some sense here. His minutes have been a little bit down lately, but normally in competitive games he's going to play about 30, 32 minutes. And obviously, if this game's close, Nurkic has a ton of upside and a really good matchup here. So him and Dame, both tournament plays I'm interested in. On the San Antonio side, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, none of those guys really stand out at their price tags. I want to say that I think Devin Vassell came off the bench last game. That was really weird to see. If he's coming off the bench, obviously, 7K, going to be tough to go there. The one guy that does look appealing, though, on San Antonio is Charles Bassey. So, obviously, no Jakob Poeltl. He's still out. Zach Collins, who's been starting at center, is doubtful for today. So, I'm guessing next man up will be Charles Bassey. And Charles Bassey is a really good per-minute producer. We've seen him put up really good games when he gets minutes, 20 minutes, 20 DK points, 21 minutes, 30 DK points. He's going to average most nights around a fantasy point per minute. Now, the matchup against Nurkic is definitely tougher. There's some foul trouble risk guarding Nurkic, but man, Bassey is such a good producer on a per-minute basis that if he plays 25, 30 minutes here, he could absolutely crush value on this salary. So I think he's going to be pretty popular, but hard to not like Charles Bassey right now. He looks like one of the better value plays kind of early on, taking a first look at this slate. So by far, he's my favorite play in this game. I think he's a really good value today if he starts. He should start. And I do want to mention that Isaiah Roby started last game. He only played 14 minutes, but he got off to a really hot start. I think he had I want to say he had 10 or 11 Draftkings points in the first quarter, and then he just barely played. So that was really weird. Even if he starts again, I don't know if we can go there, but he produced when he was on the floor. He only played 14 minutes for some reason. I don't know why they started him and only played him 14 minutes. That's kind of weird. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. I think that's it for that one. Cleveland and Dallas. So not one I'm super interested in here. You got two pretty good defensive teams, got two slow-paced teams. Luka, always a viable tournament play, but this is definitely one of the tougher matchups you can get. Cleveland's a really good defensive team. I don't think this is the best spot for Luka, but on a 10-game slate, Luka's fine to go to. If this turns into a stars and scrubs slate and we get a lot of value today, I'm fine paying up for Luka just because of the massive floor that he has. But I think this is definitely a spot where it's pretty unlikely he puts up a massive ceiling game. But Luka's always playable. No one else, though, on Dallas is really viable for me. I'm not considering anyone else on this team. And then on the Cleveland side, Now that Cleveland's fully healthy, I don't love much here either. Garland and Mitchell both feel priced about right, and I don't love this matchup against Dallas. Mobley feels priced about right. Jared Allen, 6,800, feels priced about right. Like, these are guys you can sprinkle into GPP lineups, but man, this is probably one of the least appealing games on the slate. Like, I just don't like much here. Not a ton stands out from this one. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We got 2 more to hit. So Washington and Denver. This is going to be one to keep an eye on, especially on the Washington side. Kristaps Porzingis, Bradley Beal, both listed as questionable for the Wizards. So I'm assuming Porzingis and Beal both play, and if they do, I don't really like much on the Wizards because obviously with Beal out lately, Porzingis and Kuzma have been priced up. Everyone's been priced up for the most part, so nobody would look that great from Washington if Porzingis and Beal play. But if Porzingis and Beal are out, I know Kuzma's 9K, but Kuzma would have a massive usage rate without Porzingis and Beal, and I think he'd be a really solid play, even at 9K. I'd be interested in Kuzma today. Jordan Goodwin has been starting lately in place of Monte Morris. If Monte Morris gets ruled out too and Jordan Goodwin continues to start, I think he's a pretty good option, even at 5,600. I mean, in the games he started lately, 34, 38, and 36 minutes, he's been producing as well when he's on the floor. So I'm interested in Goodwin if he continues to start. Obviously, that will depend on if Monte Morris plays or not. Denny Avdia, I think I'm only considering Avdia if Porzingis and Beal are out. And then like the rest of these guys, like Will Barton can maybe be in consideration for value. A lot of these Wizards guys got priced up for when Beal was out, so none of them are like glaring values. But like if Porzingis sits, Daniel Gafford's only 3,800. Don't love the spot against Jokic, and there's definitely some foul trouble risk, but Gafford's a really good per-minute producer when he's on the floor, and obviously he would have to play minutes here. They're going to need his size against Jokic, so if Gafford winds up starting in place of Porzingis, if Porzingis gets ruled out, Gafford's going to be a pretty good value. So right now, there's definitely some pending value today. We're just going to have to wait and see with some of these questionable guys. Don't love much on Washington as of now, but that will definitely change if Porzingis and Beal do get ruled out. Obviously, both questionable. Now, on the Denver side, I think for Denver today, probably the only guy I'm considering here is Jokic. I think Jokic is a strong pay-up option. The Wizards have not been like the best defensive teams against centers. We've seen some centers have good games against the Wizards, and Jokic has really started to flash that ceiling as of late. 71 DK points against the Pelicans, 60 against Portland. Against Utah last game, he put up 80 DraftKings points. Like, that's the Jokic that we know, a guy that can put up 70, 80 DraftKings points any night. I would say of all the pay-up options today, Jokic is definitely one of my favorites. Him and Trae Young, I think right now are the 2 guys I like most at the top. So I'm interested in Jokic here for sure. I think he's a viable option for, obviously. The rest of Denver, though, don't love Murray or Gordon here or the rest of these guys. It's really just Jokic for me, and I think that's it. So let's go ahead and talk about the last game of the night, Minnesota and the Clippers. So for the Clippers today, another team that I'm not like super interested in. Paul George been playing better lately, been getting good minutes, but at 9,500, like I don't love him on this slate. Pretty good matchup though. Minnesota does play at a fast pace, but I think PG's priced about right. Kawhi's going to continue to be on a minutes limit. His production's been improving lately. He had 47 DraftKings points last game, but he's only going to play like 28, 30 minutes, so you're going to need him to be very productive when he's on the floor. Could Kawhi go out there and put up 45 DraftKings points in 30 minutes? He absolutely can. But I'm not in love with Kawhi today, but it is at least better to see him. It's good to see him start playing well lately, playing better. But while he's on that minutes limit, it's just hard to consider him a great option, especially on like a 10-game slate. The rest of the Clippers, Monte Morris, John Wall, Zubac, don't love any of these guys. Zubac's cheap. His minutes have kind of been all over the place lately. You would think in this matchup against Gobert, they're going to need Zubac out there. So, I think Zubac has a path to play in 32, 34 minutes here. But, man, it's just so tough to predict with Zubac. Some nights he'll play 34 minutes. Some nights he'll play 15. You never really know. But this does feel like a matchup where they're going to need him out there. I think Zubac's worth a shot in GPPs. I think his ownership should be fairly low today. He's kind of interesting. Now, on the Minnesota side, Anthony Edwards at 9,200. He continues to be solid without Cat, but at this price tag, I'm not really in love with Anthony Edwards. I think he is priced about right now for Cat to be out. Don't love the matchup either against Paul George and Kawhi, who are both pretty solid defenders. So not super interested in Ant today. Rudy Gobert's been playing really well lately. I think Gobert looks pretty appealing at 7,900. Price tag's starting to come up, but this is definitely a good matchup. The Clippers have not been the best defensive team against bigs. We've seen bigs have some good games against the Clippers. Last few games without Cat, we finally started to see Gobert produce at a high rate. 31 minutes, 54 DK points, 37, 36, 32 minutes the last 3 games. He's going to get 35, 36 minutes here if it's a close game. He should produce when he's out there. Very likely to get a double-double. We know Gobert can block shots as well. I'm very interested in Gobert today. He's probably my favorite play overall in this game. But I do want to talk about D'Angelo Russell, who's questionable. So if D'Angelo Russell plays, he's like a GPP option at 7,600. He's like playable. If he were to get ruled out, though, obviously Anthony Edwards would take on a bigger role. I'd be a little bit more interested in Anthony Edwards if Russell got ruled out. I'd also be interested in some of the value here. So I assume they're going to be without Jordan McLaughlin. So if Russell gets ruled out, I assume they might start Jalen Noel at point guard. And Jalen Noel is a really good per-minute producer. If D'Angelo Russell does not play, Jalen Noel is going to be like one of the best value plays on the slate if he starts. If he comes off the bench, he'll still be viable, but I definitely would rather see him in the starting lineup. But I'd be interested in him for value at 4,600. I guess they could start like Austin Rivers at point guard. Maybe if Austin Rivers starts, you could go there, but I think most likely it would be Noel who gets the start, and I think Noel would be a really good value if Russell gets ruled out. And then like Kyle Anderson as a mid-range option, I think is fine. He's been playing pretty good minutes lately. Obviously, last game lost some minutes due to blowout, but he should continue to start in place of Cat. Should continue to play 32, 34 minutes a night, and he's a fantasy point per minute player. So I'm fine going to Kyle Anderson as a mid-range option. I think he's viable. But the big news here is Russell's status. If Russell sits, that will give us some value, and definitely Jalen Noel would be the guy that I think would benefit most without Russell. But that'll do it, guys, for this 10-game Wednesday slate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. As always, appreciate you watching. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to PrizePicks, if you have not checked out PrizePicks, again, they are the sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100, or you can just click the link in the description. It will take you straight there. But definitely give PrizePicks a try if you have not yet. As always, though, appreciate you guys checking out these videos every week, every day, I should say. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.